As an introvert, I like to say it's an extrovert's world and I'm just living in it. Because here's the thing, at least in American culture, being an extrovert is considered better in a lot of workplaces, communities, etc. So it can leave us introverts feeling like we're lacking something, like we're deficient in some way, and we can't do things the right way simply because of how we're wired. In workplaces, extroverts tend to have their voices heard more easily because they say things as they're thinking them, whereas introverts oftentimes need more time to process before they say something out loud. Extroverts usually have a really easy time in social situations, in getting to know people and making friends. They make friends very easily and they have a lot of them. Whereas for introverts, it takes a little more work. And to be honest, we're a little bit pickier about the people we call our friends. And so it's easy as an introvert to feel like you're lacking in some way when you live in a culture like this that does really value extroversion. And being an introverted parent in general is tough, but being an introverted adoptive parent has a whole other set of challenges. So today we're going to talk about, should introverts really adopt? So let's jump in and talk about introverted adoptive parents and is it a good idea? Welcome back to Adopt Informed. And if you're new here, my name is Katie and I'm an adoption consultant who helps families from all across the country adopt from foster care. My husband Nick and I adopted our 3 awesome kids from foster care, and they are currently ages 6 through 14. And guess what? Both my husband and I, introverts. So we're doing it. But I'm gonna share with you exactly what it's been like for me being an introvert who is also an adoptive parent, and kind of let you know the things that have been really tough about it, but also some of the things that I would consider introvert superpowers when it comes to adoptive parenting. So to figure out if you can handle adoptive parenting as an introvert, I think we first need to step back and just get a real understanding of what introversion versus extroversion really is. Because there are a lot of misconceptions out there. A lot of people think that if you're an introvert, it means you're extremely shy, you're extremely quiet, you don't know how to hold a conversation. And if you're an extrovert, you're just loud and crazy all the time and you always want to be around people 24/7. And both of those are extreme exaggerations. I think some people might be surprised to know that I'm an introvert because I do make content on YouTube, but you have to realize as I'm making this, I'm all alone in my house. And today, funny enough, my husband's basically giving me an introvert day. He took all 3 of our kids and he's doing stuff with them all throughout the morning and early afternoon so that I could have a little time alone, because as I'm filming this, it is the summer and we have been spending a lot of together, and mama needs some alone time. So I'm really appreciative to my husband for giving me that, ironically on the day that I'm filming this video about introversion. So what is an introvert really? An introvert is someone who gains energy by spending time alone in quiet, peaceful, calm environments. They prefer to think through things and analyze things on their own rather than talking it through with someone as they're thinking it. And they are drained by having to spend too much time with other people and not getting that calm and peaceful environment at least every so often. And extroverts, on the other hand, they gain energy by being around people. And they gain energy from being in exciting and what we might consider more overstimulating environments. That's kind of what fires them up. And they are drained by spending too much time alone or in what they would consider like a boring environment. They like to have activities to do. They like to have places to be. It just gives them energy and makes them feel good. And I want to clarify that introverts also need to spend time with people. If I was spending time by myself 24/7, I think it would take me a while to realize I was depressed, but I would get depressed. I would eventually get depressed. An extrovert would realize they were depressed way faster, but I need to spend time with people. Just because I'm an introvert doesn't mean I don't need that. Now I think I like to spend time with fewer people at a time than some extroverts might, and I prefer to have a couple really deep relationships rather than kind of a bunch of more shallow ones. But I need to spend time with people too as an introvert. And in the same way, extroverts, they also need some alone time. So it's not this extreme thing where it's like, I never need alone time or I always need alone time. We're all human. We all have the need for solitude. We all have the need for spending time with others. So now that we've cleared up what introvert versus extrovert is, Let's start off with some of the difficulties about being an introverted adoptive parent. Hello! It's me interrupting my own video. I want to take a quick minute and let you know that the doors to the Adopt Together community are open right now. Adopt Together is an online community for foster adoptive parents who have either began the process of adopting or are within their first year post-adoption. In this group, we have monthly video trainings, we have monthly worksheets to apply what we're learning to our real lives. We have an ongoing 24/7 available community of other adoptive parents to talk to. I'm in there, I'm answering questions, interacting with all of you. It's awesome. And most excitingly, every month we have a group coaching call where we'll all get on together and we'll talk through what's going on. Whether you are still in the process of trying to find an agency, if you're waiting on a match and it's just killing you, or if you have your child home with you and you're struggling with some of those behaviors, we're all going to learn from one another, and I'm going to be guiding you through that. We already have about 15 people in the group so far, which is super exciting. We just launched very recently, and the doors are only going to stay open for this launch for another 2 weeks. So by the end of August, the doors will close and they will not open again probably until the new year. This is also the lowest cost that you will ever be able to have. It is currently only $10 a month to be a part of this community. And I will let you know that similar groups online cost anywhere from $30 to $50. So I have made this a super low price that you will be locked into for the lifetime of your membership. So if you join today, you will be able to only pay $10 forever as long as you maintain your membership. Even if the cost eventually goes up, you will still be locked into that price. So it's definitely worth it to join now so that you can try it out, see if it's for you. At the end of the day, it's $10 and you can cancel anytime you want and not be billed for the next month. So click the link in the description below and also in the pinned comment if you would like to check out Adopt Together. This month we're talking all about difficult emotions for our kids who are adopted and also difficult emotions that we can have as adoptive parents. So I hope to see you in there. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about it. Now back to the video. There are 3 main difficulties I see for adoptive parents who are introverts. Number 1 is that parenting for introverts in general is just tough. I mean, parenting is tough for everyone, but I think for introverts, it can be an extra layer of tough because we thrive in solitude and peace and quiet. And if you know kids, you don't get those things with kids. Not very often. Not without really fighting for it. Kids tend to create loud and overstimulating environments. I know my kids do. And we've done things to help with that. Like we have places in our house where they can be really loud. And we have places in our house where we're like, that's not an activity for this room because it helps me not become overstimulated and crazy. But don't be surprised if just in general, you are overstimulated a lot more than usual if you become a parent as an introvert. You're just not gonna get as much time to yourself. There's not gonna be the same level of peace and quiet. So, just prepare yourself. And even if you have biological kids, if you are more introverted or if your biological children are more introverted because they're like you in that way, just know that it's very likely that the kids that come into your home will not be quiet. They very possibly have not had many rules or have not had any sort of consistent home life. And so they might just run wild at first. And that's hard. It can be really overwhelming. The second thing I find really difficult as an introverted adoptive parent is when you adopt kids, they have trauma. And this can often lead to their emotional age being several years younger than their actual age. So for example, you could have a 9-year-old who has some of the emotional needs of a 4-year-old. And you're just not expecting that with a 9-year-old. You're expecting them to act like a 9-year-old, to have these certain needs and other things they can do on their own. And as an introverted parent, you might be like, oh good, at least I know they can do some of these things where they won't need me and I might get like a couple seconds to be able to spend by myself or do something. And that's just often not the case because they need you more than you would think. They just might need you more like a younger child would, even if you adopt a slightly older child. So just be aware of that. That can be challenging. I think in general, a lot of things for adoptive parents that are hard are when our expectations don't meet the reality. And so that is one where I think expectations and reality can be hard. The third thing that I find really difficult as adoptive parent who is an introvert is that adopted children, just because of all the stuff they've been through, may be more physically clingy. I don't love that word just because it has a negative connotation. I think it's completely understandable why they're more physically clingy. There's this huge fear of abandonment because they have been abandoned. They have lost adults in their lives. But it can be very overwhelming as a parent. It can be very overstimulating to be touched all the time. And I think especially if you adopt an older kid and you're just not expecting that from them. Maybe you were never that touchy with your parents at that age, and so it's kind of odd to you. I may or may not be sharing that from experience. I think a lot of introverts, not all of them, but I think a lot of us introverts, we're not like wanting to be around people all the time, and that also often means we're not very physically touchy people. I'm sure there are exceptions to this, but speaking personally, it's not that I don't like hugs or anything, I just am not like a really physically clingy person. And so it can be exhausting sometimes. And I know a lot of moms, whether they're adoptive moms or biological moms, will talk about how they feel touched out. You know, by the end of the day, they feel touched out. They're like, people have been touching me all day long, and I just want to be in a room by myself and left alone. I think that can be extra true when you are an adoptive parent who's an introvert, because here's the thing, it's one thing for a baby or a little toddler to be hanging on you all day, but let's say that you have a 7 or 8-year-old who's hanging on you all day as if they're a toddler. That is physically exhausting too. Like, not just emotionally exhausting, that's physically. It's harder to have someone that big hanging on you all the time. And so that can be really, really draining as an introverted parent. This was a big struggle for me personally. As I said, I'm not the most touchy-feely person. I wish I was more so that way, but I hug my kids. I sit and cuddle with them sometimes, but they want it about 50,000 times more than what I'm offering right now. So they're all about physical touch, at least my girls are. And it's just not that natural to me to be cuddling and hugging 24/7. So I have to step out of my comfort zone and like pursue that at times. And it is a little bit more tiring because it just doesn't line up naturally with my personality. I'm sure there are other challenges introverted adoptive parents face, but those are the big three that kind of came to mind for me. But now I want to go through and talk about some of what I would consider the introvert parent's superpowers. I think it's easy to look at all the negative things and the things that we don't have and our deficiencies, and then we forget that we have a lot of great things to offer as introverted parents as well. So the first thing is that most introverts really enjoy deep conversation. It's a myth that introverts want to be alone 24/7. I know that the type of introvert I am, at least, I really enjoy spending time with like one person, like a best friend or with my husband. Sometimes I prefer that to being alone, although I need my alone time as well. And so you oftentimes, as an introvert, know how to go really deep in conversations, and it kind of feeds your soul to do that. And it can drain your soul to have the surface level, just, oh, how are you? I'm good. Those kind of fake conversations. And the reason this is a superpower in terms of adoptive parenting is that adopted children have been through a lot. And there will probably come a day where your child is going to want to open up to you and share things with you, whether they're sad about being adopted, they miss their bio parents, they're mad at their bio parents for the things that they did to them or didn't do for them. They will want to talk. And as an introvert, you have a gift of being a good listener. You have a gift of being someone who takes in information and processes it, doesn't interrupt people as much. You're not as likely to try to say what you're thinking about it. You're willing to listen, and that's oftentimes exactly what they need. And I also think in that same vein, introverts are less likely to want to distract them by doing something fun, which does have a place. Like, there are times where someone just needs to be distracted from what they're going through, and they need to just have a moment where they can be happy for a little bit. And that's where extroverts come in clutch. Like, we need them at those times. But there are also times where just telling them to cheer up or just trying to not get them to not talk about that because it's so sad, that's not actually helpful. And so what we need is we need to be able to sit down and listen to them and take it in and just be there. I always joke with my husband, he's an introvert too, but I think because I'm a woman, the kids are just like, they just open up to me more. I open up to him. I think he's great to talk to and easy to talk to, but the kids always have their emotional outpourings when he's gone and it's just me and them, and then all of a sudden all three of them in one day are like telling me everything about their lives and things they're sad about, and I'm like, oh, why do you leave me here with all these emotional kids? But I also recognize that in ways that I don't feel as good of a parent, like because I'm not a super touchy-feely person, I am a great parent in the sense that they feel comfortable that they can tell me things, that I'll listen without judging them, that I will try to offer them solutions if they need them, and I can comfort them in those times. So that is something that I am proud of as an adoptive parent who's an introvert. The second superpower that I think we have as introverted adoptive parents is that we can teach our kids that alone time is actually healthy and doesn't have to be something to be feared. For a lot of kids with abandonment issues, the idea of being alone is absolutely terrifying. But the truth is, even extroverts need alone time too, right? We talked about that earlier. You can show your kid that being alone doesn't have to be scary or bad, and you can teach them how to spend some alone time where they can actually do things that are really fun. One of the things we do in our home, I've talked about it like way long ago in the past, we do quiet time. So we do this on the weekends and we do it in the summer. And so for 1 hour a day, every kid goes to their room at the same time, like usually after lunch, and they don't have any tablets or electronics. They are just going to their room to spend some time by themselves. They could take a nap if they want, they could read a book, they could do crafts, they could play with their toys. It's just no electronics. And our kids pushed back against this a lot at the beginning. I think the thought of being alone in a room was terrifying. They had to be alone with their own thoughts. They couldn't numb out and watch a show and forget the things they were feeling. They had to actually sit with some of that discomfort, but I think it was so good for them. And it's been cool because it's taught them that sometimes they actually really enjoy spending time by themselves and it's not so scary anymore. Like for my youngest daughter, one of the things for her is I'm like, you don't have to share your toys with anyone when you're in quiet time. You can play with all of them at once. There's no fighting over who gets what person. My son enjoys building Legos and his sister will often kind of destroy them if she's around. So for him, he gets to build things and not worry that someone's going to come in and ruin it and then he's going to be upset. And my son is actually the only introverted child we have. And so it's been really interesting. At first, he was so against quiet time. He would come out to go to the bathroom about 5 times in 1 hour because he was just trying to avoid being alone. Now he loves it. He reads books the whole time. He builds Legos. Sometimes I think he needs that because his sisters are extroverts and they want to play with him all the time when they're all around. So I think it's been really good for him to have that as well. And I think that just teaches our kids to enjoy their own company, to try things, activities, crafts that they might not have ever done if they were just constantly around people. And the third superpower I think we have as introverted parents is that we can model boundaries to our kids. Something that I have done is I have explained to my kids actually what an extrovert versus an introvert is. And I've explained to them how I love them so, so much, but that I'm the type of person that I need time by myself, even if the people I'm around I love so much. And they know that I love my husband, that I love dad, and we spend time together. I say, I even go get alone time from dad because I don't want to be around people all the time. It makes me feel tired. And I want to make sure that when you and I spend time together, I'm awake and I'm ready to go and I'm excited to be there and I'm fully 100% there with you. And I can't do that if I don't get some alone time. And so I think something we can do as adoptive parents who are introverts is set boundaries with our kids and say things like, you know, at this time of day, this is mommy's reading time. I'm going to read for 30 minutes and no one is supposed to bother me unless there's an emergency. Or I am going to go on a walk by myself. No, you can't come. This is mommy's alone time that I have to have. We could take a walk together another time. You know, like there are things that you can do to show your kids that boundaries are okay. And what I like about this is it helps you maintain your boundary. It helps you get the rest you need so that you can be a better parent. And it's showing your kid that setting boundaries is okay and that they don't have to say yes to everything someone asks them for, which is really healthy for them to have in their lives. And teaching my kids healthy boundaries is one of the biggest tasks I think I have as an adoptive parent, whether it's physical boundaries of who we should hug and who we shouldn't, and who we should go say hi to and who we shouldn't, that are safety things, or if it's boundaries like, hey, this is what I want to do right now. I'm going to do this. I need some space. It's definitely healthy to teach them those things. So here's the thing. Remember, being an extrovert would not just instantly make your life easier as an adoptive parent. There are ways it would, but we also have to remember the fact that just because extroverts enjoy spending time with people, it doesn't mean they want to spend time with kids 24/7. Let's be real. A lot of them probably really miss being able to be spontaneous and just go out with friends randomly and do things without having to plan it all out in advance. And they don't get to do that either. So whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, parenting is hard. There's no getting around it. And whether you're an adoptive parent or a biological parent, parenting is hard. We can't get around that. And newsflash, I am a firm believer that there's not just one specific type of person who should adopt and everyone else is doomed to fail. You may have seen advertisements before for foster care and they say, you don't have to be perfect to be the perfect parent. And I generally agree with that statement. I think so many people consider adoption and then don't actually do it because they feel like they are not the magical, exact right person to be able to handle it. And the truth is, I'm not the magical, exact right person to be able to handle it either, and I'm doing it. Yes, there are traits that can make it easier or harder, but it doesn't mean you have to fit one specific mold in order to be a good adoptive parent. But I think being aware of our weaknesses where it comes to parenting with our personalities and when it comes to our strengths, we can learn a lot and it can really help us push forward to be the best parent we can be and to feel confident in our parenting. So introverts, if you're considering adopting, I believe you can do it. And if you're an introvert who's in the process of adopting from foster care, or you're a foster parent, or you've already brought your child home for an adoptive placement, we would love to see you in the Adopt Together community. So don't forget to click the link down below in the description box or in the pinned comment. Make sure you join soon because the doors will not be open for long. And let me know any questions you have about the group and I will be answering those below as well. Anyway, I hope you're having an amazing day and I will see you next week.